So I just wanted to have a quick rundown and show you how to use the basics of Adobe Premiere. I know a few people are starting their video projects, so I'll show you the basics. I'll put together a video like this one where we've got some text there, images, a short video, audio. We'll add in some transitions. We can chop up the video or audio if you like, change speeds of things and whatnot. So that's pretty much the basics. The very important thing to remember about Premiere is the stage size, and that's determined by the first object you drop in there. So if you happen to drop in a square image, you can't really reverse that because that's what determines the size of your stage. And remember from assessment task 1, it is the 16:9 aspect ratio. So it's quite important to set your first bit of a scene in the right dimensions, and that's 1920 by 1080. So let's go. I'll just save and close this project. And let's start a new project in Premiere. What I've done while that's loading, I have already set up a folder on my desktop which contains an audio that I've downloaded, a couple of images that I'm going to use, and a video. So you might record your own. I'll give you some links as to where you can download free footage from as well. But I've got that already set up, and I recommend you do that as well because you'll create your storyboard, you'll gather your resources, so make sure your information is well organized because everything is linked in Premiere. You don't want to go around and move things around afterwards. So the last thing you want to do is save things on your desktop and then try and tidy up. So they'll appear as broken links. Please take a moment to create this folder structure with all the right elements in there. And if you do choose to change an image or video, that's fine, but everything is in that one location. So I've got now Premiere loaded. So when you do start Premiere, select New Project, and I'll call it My Video. Leave the settings as they are. The display format is timecode, so we will see the seconds rather than frames, and by default it is 25 frames per second. So here's the Adobe Premiere setup. I'll leave that little area so we can see my desktop folder. So what we're looking at here is all the panels here that you'll need, things like editing your text and editing elements and adding effects. This is your timeline, probably the most important panel to view because this is where you drop your objects on a timeline. This is the preview area of whatever it is that you're creating in your video. And this is all the media. So this is your library of all the elements. So the first thing we want to do is import everything into our library, and then we'll start dragging and dropping it onto our timeline. So here I am. So I'll go and grab my audio. It's just a snippet of audio I've downloaded. Ideally you want to use audio loops if it's music of some sort. I've got a couple of images I'll bring in. Import or Command I. Let's get to know Premiere first before we worry about shortcuts. Alright, so the first thing I want to do, like I mentioned, we want to make sure our stage is set correctly. So whether you edit one of your images in Photoshop and set that to the right dimensions, or I think what's easier is to create your first title screen. So a bit of text, because it's inevitable that you'll have some text somewhere. To add text in, you go to Title, Default Still. The other options have animation integrated into them, which you can experiment with later. So make sure you set the width to 1920 by 1080. It is based on 25 frames per second, which is ideal for video, and I'm going to call it My Video. So it's going to be the title of my video. That's be a little introduction, or you can call it intro, whatever you like, and I'll hit enter. So at the moment, if you've noticed, that just flipped from my stage to my title screen preview. Okay, and I have a new object added to my library called my video. So what I'm going to do here, make sure you've got your title tools open, because with that you can select the text, you can type in the text, rotate it and whatnot. So to get to this panel, in case you can't see it, you can click here and you can turn on tools, properties, styles. So we're going to have a little play with that. So first thing I want to do is click my text to add something in. So call it intro to my video. Right, so there's no styling or anything there, but you can see you've got your font choices and the basics up here. This is sizes. If you hover over these objects, you'll see what they actually do. These pull your letters apart. So you can click sideways to increase that, or you can just double click to set a size. Now I want to move it probably to the center. So center align won't work as such because I just started typing at this point. What you can do is just grab your selection tool. So if you can't see this panel, you want to go to my video and choose tools, and that's going to turn that on for you. So we want to take the selection tool and simply take this and reposition it. The next thing I want to do is have a look at some preset styles. So there's title styles. If you can't see that panel, again, you can find it here. And these are great, so I might choose that one. So it adds a font for me, a drop shadow. You can then adjust that further if you want to go that far. So here's where you can change colors of things, of your text. The opacity, the positioning, so that's that bit of text in absolute detail where you can adjust everything. I will leave it as is. I'm quite happy with it. So here it is. At the moment, there's nothing on my stage. All I've been doing is working on that little intro to my video text. That's a preview of it there. I'm ready to put my first object on my timeline, so I'm simply going to click and drag this and drop it on my timeline. So here it is. There's my preview. So if you hit the space bar, that'll play for you as well, or you can simply use the stop and play button. So that stops by default. Objects get dropped in at 5 seconds, but you can of course shorten that. So if you grab the edge of that little object on your timeline, you can pull that in to shorten the time that it plays. I'm fairly happy with the 5 seconds. So you do need to hover your player head, which is this blue line, over the text for you to be able to see the objects on your stage at that point in time, which is at 2.2 seconds. I have a bit of text there. The next thing I might do is I might drop an image here next to it. So I'm simply clicking, dragging and dropping. So I'll just move my player heads. So there it is, they're attached. If you by accident dropped it here, you're going to have a gap in between. So I'm going to grab that and push it along so the two objects touch each other, and then if I play, just bring it here, hit space. There it is. Great. I've got a bit of video here as well, which I'll drag and drop next. That's got no audio with it, which I didn't want. And then I might drop another bit of an image next to that. So I'm simply dragging and dropping objects on a timeline, and that's the order in which they will appear. This is similar to a Photoshop layer, so things sit in layers. If I wanted to have a bit of text sitting over an image, I can do that. I would just put it on a layer above the image, which we will do in a minute. My audio, for example, I'd like for that to be playing in the background. So I'm going to click and drag that rather than putting it up here where all my content is. I'll drag and drop it on a layer below those the video and the images. So I hit play. You've got that music going in the background. So it's really quite simple and straightforward. With audio or with any of these objects, you can right click to explore to see what options you have. Something you might like is the speed and duration. We can do that with video as well. I might just make it 80% speed. It'll still sound fine. It just gives me a bit more time on my timeline with that audio. This is a perfect loop, so if I wanted to be looping, I can simply drag and drop that in there again to play that melody again. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is maybe add some text. What I do want to give you is the links to where you can download free audio loops, audio effects, some free video footage, just generic stock stuff, and images, of course, which you would already know about. So to do that, I need to create a new title screen, which is my text screen. So when I go and click default still, I'm going to call that handy links. It's already remembering what I set my width and height previously. So there it is, it's a title screen. What you're seeing here is because my player head is at that point in time, I'm just seeing that in the background of where I'm about to type my text. So don't be alarmed if your player head happens to be here and you start typing and you've got that text in the background. It's simply because your player head is sitting on the 4th second of your video. So ideally you want to make sure your player head is where you want to drop the text, so you've got a good preview of where things need to be. Okay, so I'll double click my handy links text to activate my text screen, text editor, and then remember the title tools for you to be able to select the text tool so you can start typing. And I've got these links on a little notepad, which I'll just copy and paste. So there it is. So I might want to center align the text, and then I want to move it to the middle. So to do that, you need to grab your selection tool. Please by no means drag this out to enlarge things because it distorts text. Command Z will undo that for you. You want to first reposition it. If you want to make your text bigger, please use the type sizing tool. Never ever distort fonts because they look awful for one, and it's something to avoid. Okay, so next thing was text styles, if you like. If you want to style that up, it's good to go over it twice. Might make it a bit smaller. There it is. So I've got some audio loops in that link for you, VidEasy. If you simply Google free stock footage, it'll give you plenty of links for where you can download video. Based on your storyboard, I guess you're going to record your own bits of video anyway. And that's a great place to download free images if need be. Okay, so coming back to my timeline, so this is my text preview. Coming back to my actual video, away from your text video, you'll see that there's no text dropped in here. I actually just created that screen. So there it is in my library. And what I'm going to do is click and drag and drop that above that last image. So you'll see that it's floating over the top of that image. Another thing, I mean, you know, sky's the limit to what you can do here, but maybe I'll put like an opaque panel behind those links so they're better visible. You can of course do that. So if I go to my title tools, I do need to have this selected. So it's something that I'm editing inside my title screen. So you do need to double click to go in there. You might have noticed these tools that you can use. So at the moment the default color is white. That's fine. So I'm going to drag and put that in. And then I'm going to go to my title properties to, for one, change the opacity of that selected object and maybe even change its color to a kind of a darker color. There it is. Now, because I created that object last, it does happen to be sitting over my text. So I can right click that and send it backwards. So you can see the text is now a bit brighter. I'll just bump up the opacity still. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. I've gone back to my video now just to see how that looks. So there it is. Good. Let's have a quick play of that. I'm thinking I might do, that video is quite long, so just for the exercise sake, we're going to chop that video for one. Beautiful. We're going to chop this video and maybe speed up one half of it. Why not? So your Premiere tools, so please don't forget that what we were doing here, that was your title tools. That's everything to edit the text you were working with. If you want to edit the video itself and your timeline, these are the tools for your timeline. So I'm going to get my razor, and as you hover over that video, it's probably not a bad idea to place your player head where you want to cut the video. So I'd say round about there, and then I can come here with my razor and just click once, and what that's done, it's chopped my video in 2 bits. I'll go back to my selection tool, and now I can select each part of the video individually, which is great. So what I might do, I'll leave this at the pace that is the first bit of my video, but I might actually speed the second part up. It's a bit boring, isn't it? So I'm going to right click, speed duration, and let's speed it up to 200%, so or even more actually. Let's go 300. So it shows you then that it's only going to be a 5-second video. Obviously it's shorter because it speeds up. So let's just quickly show you what happened there, which is a nice little effect, isn't it? Okay, so that's created a gap in my timeline also, just because the video is now shorter. So I can simply drag and drop that here. Great. So if you do come back and want to change your mind, it does remember what you've done. So you'll see 300 there. So that's okay. You can always edit that further. One last thing I wanted to show you was how to add transitions in your video. So if you can't see any of these panels, you can get to them by going to Window. You'll see Title Styles, Title Properties. So please don't be concerned if you can't see those panels. You can find them here under your window menu. So what I'd like to do is I would like to add some transitions between my images and my videos, things like fades, maybe a gradient slide and things like that. So to do that, I'm going to go to Effects. Effects panel is also under Video. Just need to look for it. There we go. Let's have a look. So let's have a look at video transitions, and we've got things like dissolve, which is your cross dissolve, so images fading into one another. So I'll just click, drag and drop that between those 2 images. So you'll see a little grey rectangle, and what that does, it's a style preset. It adds a really nice transition between those 2. So this is something you can experiment with. Dip to black is fade out and fade in. Film dissolve, so we can add that one in here between our 2 bits of video. Okay, well, that's really all I want to show you. It's a great starting point. Next thing I want to do is export this, because you have been, by default it's getting saved as well, which is great. Please don't forget to save. You tend to work on large projects in Premiere, so it is important to remember to hit Command S every couple of minutes. So to export this for YouTube, we're going to go to Export, Media, and please make sure your format is H.264, and from presets you can go and choose your preset. So if your assessment or your client requires a YouTube video of 720 pixels HD, well, that's what you choose then. You choose that, and then you hit Export. You may be asked to record a time it takes to export and upload. So make sure you do note that down. The longer your video, the longer it'll take to export it. Usually the length of your exporting will be as long as your actual video, so it does go second by second. you do need to allow time for exporting your video for compression. So that's ready. Just make sure I save my file. Lovely. That's the end of that tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. Just one last point before I go. When we do export, so I'll just go back there. I want to make sure we get this right. You can choose where you save that video, so it's quite important to make sure that it does go in the same folder as your project. I'll hit save and let's export. Just want to show you the outcome. While that's doing its thing, when you are asked to upload videos to YouTube, YouTube uses your Gmail account. So if you've got one of those, you just log into YouTube with your Gmail account, and then you'll see an upload button to the left top right corner of the browser to the left of your username. So you simply drag and drop. That process is quite easy and straightforward. So here I am. There's my project. There are all my links. And there's my MP4 file.